Council urges the international community to exert efforts on TPLF. And one of the founding members of the TPLF confirms TPLF's anti-Ethiopian ideology reflected in Tigray Anthem. Hello and good morning. You're watching ETV English Language with the news. I'm Binyam Gitana. Thank you for joining us and do with us. President Sahle-Work Zewde met with chairs of 13 national chapters of the African Women Leaders Network, including the Ethiopian chapter, which she launched in 2019 in Addis Ababa. The president called on governments and all stakeholders to focus on training, supporting and mentoring more women, thereby promotes their role in the overall activities. African Women Leaders Network is a groundbreaking women's-led movement supported by the African Union and United Nations, encouraging women's leadership across generations in Africa. And Ethiopian Political Parties Joint Council has urged the international community to exert the necessary pressure on the terrorist TPLF forces to return to the peaceful option. The Joint Council has also called on some countries to support the peaceful paths by refraining from interfering in the internal affairs of Ethiopia by supporting the terrorist group. The Ethiopian Political Parties Joint Council, a coalition of some 53 political parties in the country, issued a statement calling for the halt of the rekindled war in the northern part of the country and resumption of the peaceful alternative. The 22-month-long conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia has caused huge human, economic, social, and psychological damage, he added. Chairman of the Joint Council, Mebratu Alemu, noted Ethiopia's civilization and development has been held up due to the prolonged war, has not yet able to come out of the vicious cycle of the war. The chairman underscored that it was the firm desire of the people that this devastating war should be ended peacefully. He further pointed out that the great hopes were emerging due to the government's decision to cease fire and the efforts commenced by the African Union to bring a peaceful resolution to the war, expressing its dismay over the eruption of the war by TPLF. In its 7-point position statement, the Council has urged the terrorist TPLF forces that started the attack to resume the peace option in accordance with the unilateral ceasefire measures taken by the government. The theft of the more than 500,000 liters of fuel committed by TPLF from WFP is a disgraceful act that would exacerbate the problem of the people of Tigray as it was intended for humanitarian aid activities in the region, the Council stated. Meanwhile, the Council urges the international diplomatic community to demonstrate its impartial solidarity with a view to commencing the peace talks and discussion, as well as exert the necessary pressure on TPLF. And in other news, the historical enemies of Ethiopia have left no stone unturned to realize their centuries-old dream of destroying the nation. Even though their ill-conceived plan have failed so far, they are still showing their true colors by hatching other destructive plans. Even though the enemies of Ethiopia have gathered all their forces to crush the country, it is inevitable that Ethiopia will prevail. Johannes Fanton has compiled the following story. Let's take a look.
The historical enemies of Ethiopia are still trying to make their wishes come true by siding with internal and external allies. For example, on June 2018, a publisher known as Geopolitical Monitor published an article entitled Ethiopia's Geopolitical Ambitions Could Bring About Its Downfall. In this article, the writer prophesied how Ethiopia will fall. Although this article clearly shows the geopolitical situation and needs of Ethiopia, it states that any development and friendly and neighborly activities of the country is considered as a red line for others. Egypt, which has a special interest in the Nile River, is the main beneficiary of the conspiracy to keep Ethiopia in a state of instability. To make this a reality, Egypt, which has conflicting ideas in the long trilateral discussions about the dams that Ethiopia is building, is still showing that its problem is not just the water, but Ethiopia's prosperity and its effort not to seize the dominance of the region by standing with the terrorist group that has betrayed Ethiopia. Westerners who are not comfortable with Ethiopia's stability and achieving better progress every year are exerting efforts to prevent Ethiopia from snapping out of poverty. In the past 3 or 4 years, seeing the progressive development of wheat production and stride towards food self-sufficiency, these enemies are clinging to the TPLF as a Trojan horse. Although still determined to get out of poverty, Ethiopians are still trying to heal old wounds that are holding them back.
And moving on, Ethiopian ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Jamal Becker, briefed officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan and African heads of mission based in Islamabad on the current situation in Ethiopia, particularly the reignited war by the TPLF in the northern part of the Ethiopian Amhara and Afar regions. He said it is unfortunate that the TPLF reignited the war by recruiting child soldiers, using human waves to invade neighboring regions and paying once again its victim strategy. The TPLF looted humanitarian relief intended for civilians in the Tigray region and worsened the humanitarian crisis in the region by diverting humanitarian aid to its combatant to invade neighboring regions, he said. He stressed that the Ethiopian government has a constitutional obligation to uphold and protect its citizens from the threat posed by the TPLF. He said the international community should play its constructive roles in pressing TPLF to continue the AU-led negotiation to end this destructive conflict peacefully. According to Jamal, Ethiopians will not allow the TPLF to destabilize and destroy the country, and they will stand hand in hand to defend the sovereignty of the country. Meanwhile, the representative of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the African head of mission noted the government of Ethiopia's position on the recent events in North Ethiopia. They also recognized the legitimate action taken by the government to safeguard the security and safety of its citizens and appreciated the government of Ethiopia's government to resolving the conflict through AU-led process. In a similar story, the TPLF's chief ideology is everbit anti-Ethiopian. Its chief propagandist works tirelessly to inculcate hateful ideas regarding Ethiopian to children and use of Tigray. The Tigray state's anthem reeks of the hostile sentiments triggering the people of Tigray to stand against Ethiopia, who are considered their enemies. It preaches hard-won dominance, the need to keep the other Ethiopian down, and totally shuns the concept of common prosperity. Likewise, some Ethiopians' advocacy organization worldwide announced that the TPLF belligerence is the cause for the absence of peace in northern Ethiopia. They also condemn the forceful recruitment and the use of child soldiers by TPLF, who has damaged them as human waves in a case of violation of international law and utter disregard for human life. Jerusalem Betza has more.
Organizations are global coalitions formed to advance human rights, rule of law, good governance, the protection of the environment, and sustainable development in Ethiopia. A joint communique issued by these organizations indicated that the one soldier per family policy in exchange for food aid to commit to a reckless violence insurgency is deplorable. Once again, the TPLF is actively engaged in serious human rights violations, attacking civilians in Amhara and Afar states, the communique said. The advocacy organizations further denounced the defending silence of the international community in condemning such blatant violations of international law by the TPLF. Finally, the organizations urged the international community to reiterate the importance of having a peace process under the undisputed leadership role of the African Union, scaling up cooperation and assistance to support the AU-led process, recognizing efforts made by the government in providing unfettered access to humanitarian assistance, and its commitment to resolving the conflict in Tigray through peaceful means, the organizations said are crucial steps.
Once again, the TPLF's chief ideology is every bit anti-Ethiopian. Its chief propagandists worked tirelessly to inculcate hateful ideas regarding Ethiopia to children and use of Tigray. The Tigray state's anthem reeks of these hostile sentiments, triggering the people of Tigray to stand against Ethiopians who are considered their enemies. It preaches a hard-won dominance, the need to keep other Ethiopians down, and totally shuns the concept of common prosperity. With more on that.
The 1976 manifesto of the TPLF is designed the Amhara people as the main enemy of the Tigray people. Although the TPLF promised to revoke the document after 6 months of its leadership, the separatist group continued to isolate Tigray from Ethiopia. The leaders of TPLF have created enemies which are non-existent, calling them as fascists through their ego and fake propaganda.
The TPLF preached Tigrayans as if they have enemies and convinced the people to fight for them and let the group live peacefully using the resources at the expense of the Tigray people. The TPLF problem begins when they told their people are surrounded with enemies. In one hand, they need to isolate Tigray from Ethiopia and point out Tigray and Ethiopia are two different countries. The TPLF leaders are propagating to the secession of Tigray, but they are invading Amhara and Afar regional states.
The leaders of TPLF have traveled long distances for the last half a century to spread hatred among generations to maintain their power with the expense of the Tigray people. Millions of Ethiopians who are brothers and sisters of the people of Tigray are labeled as fascists by the terrorist TPLF, and the group has inculcated hatred and warmonger. The TPLF has a song that instills the youth of Tigray with a sense of extreme warmongering behavior. In the verses, the terrorist group promotes bloodshed, hatred, belligerence, and arrogance. Even in the song, there are horrifying verses of hate, preaching Tigrayans to break their bones for their perceived enemies. In particular, the TPLF has worked tirelessly for many years to inculcate the children and youth of Tigray by repeatedly singing these self-defeating verses. The song contains verses that make children feel that they are surrounded by enemies and beasts, so that they don't have a place for hope, peace, development, solidarity, and Ethiopian pride. The children of Tigray are being made to memorize these verses starting from lower grade, sowing hatred and hopelessness in their minds. Children in schools don't think about development in Tigray or the importance of living in harmony with other people in Ethiopia. And instead, the children in Tigray schools are always forced to sing songs that promote bloodshed with a view to satisfying the leaders' lust for power. The song preaches the youth to sacrifice their lives as they would be victorious at the end. This is mainly aimed at inciting youths to commit even genocide and create immoral interaction between societies. The leaders of TPLF have traveled long distances for the last half a century to spread hatred among generations to maintain their power with the blood of the children of Tigray.
During their reign, the TPLF brought the narrative of liberation, a sense of disparaging other people. The group did nothing for Tigrayans, but they used the Tigray people as a human shield. The dire situation we observe in Tigray, like drought, poverty, and unemployment, is the result of the TPLF.
The hatred song of the TPLF region has shared nothing from other regional songs or the national anthem. The TPLF have built a fence with the backward and negative verses of the song, not to think about Ethiopianism, peace and development. The TPLF group has publicly been talking about its efforts to maintain power with the blood of innocent people by disseminating messages through these cruel verses. The song TPLF has prepared can be mentioned as a key triggering instrument to invade neighboring regions once again. As it is put in the song, famine and death are blessings given to Tigrayans as the group is established to bring harm on its people.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching ETV English Language with me, Biniam Getana. Now moving to another domain. The Ethiopian Embassy in Rome participated in the third Land Rover Rally event held in Cervinia, Italy, and promoted tourist destination in Ethiopia. The embassy, in collaboration with Ethiopian Airlines, successfully promoted tourism at the third Land Rover Rally event held in Cervinia, Italy, and attended by over 400 business people. At the event, the Ethiopian Embassy promoted the tourism epicenter of Ethiopia to the participants and encouraged them to visit the land of origin in their lifetime. Ethiopian Ambassador in Italy, Damitu Hambisa, held discussion with the mayor of the Volchononi, Cervinia, Gian Antoni McQueens, on points of available business opportunities in Ethiopia and ways to boost Italian investors and tourist engagements in Ethiopia. During their discussion, Ambassador Damitu explained the intact business opportunity in Ethiopia and the commitment of the government to enhance ease of doing business. Likewise, the mayor, for his part, highlighted the importance of co-organizing a business and tourism forum in the near future.
ጉልበታችን ብረት አልነበረም። ጉልበታችን ትጥቅ አልነበረም። ጉልበታችን ኢትዮጵያዊነት ነበር።
እኛ ያለን አገራችን በክፉ የሚመለከታት እኛ ያለን ጥላሸት ሊቀባት የሚፈልግ ካለ በምን ታምር ሊታሰብ አይችልም።
የግድ መጥፋት አለበት። ይህ ኃይል አልጠፋ ኢትዮጵያ ሰላም አታገኝም ብቻ ሳይሆን ከጀርባው የሚጋልቡትን አርፎ አይቀመጡ።
In our business segment, CEO of the Ethiopian Industrial Park Development Corporation, Sandoqa Debebe, stated that Ethiopia and Turkey have been enjoying warm cooperation in job creation and technology transfer sectors. The CEO and Turkish ambassador in Addis Ababa, Yabrak Alp, discussed investment opportunities in booming industrial parks and the Redwa Free Trade Zone and ways to bolster technology transfer endeavors. Sandogan told the ambassador that Turkish investors are doing a great job in creating job opportunities in industrial parks in Ethiopia and speeding up the technology transfer drive. Turkish ambassador to Ethiopia, Yabrak Alp, said that Turkey and Ethiopia have long-standing and strong ties in culture, history, and politics. The active participation of Turkish companies in the Ethiopian investment climate will serve as a basis for further heighten the ties between the two nations, she added. In our African news updates, a team of young Nigerian women has created an award-winning app to help raise awareness of climate change amid concerned Africans being affected by global